Hello and welcome to the Mobile GameDev Playbook. Thanks for tuning in for another episode. This is a podcast all about what makes a great mobile game, what is and isn't working for mobile game designers, and all of the latest trends. I'm host John Jordan, and in today's episode, we are looking forward to what's going to be happening in the mobile game space in 2023. So that's going to be really fascinating. And we have two experts to help us with their top-level views on what's going to be going on in trends and what games we should be looking out for. So we have Wilhelm Voutilainen, who's Chief Game Analyst at GameRefinery by Liftoff. How's it going, Wilhelm?
Doing really good. Thanks for asking, John.
Good. I can see you're full of the Christmas spirit with your lights behind you.
Of course, have to be.
Or New Year's spirit, I should have said so now. And also Teemu Palomäki. How's it going, Teemu?
Going great. Great to be here.
Good. And should point out you are also a chief game analyst at GameRefinery by Liftoff. We have lots of chief game analysts there because you're all so expert. Right. So we'll kick straight into what's going to go on. So I guess there's lots of trends that are always going on, but I guess the things that really drive trends are the actual products coming out. So what game should we be looking out for in 2023?
Some interesting RPG games. Personally, really looking forward to it, as well as also like from the professional side, to start with maybe Final Fantasy VII Ever Crisis. Final Fantasy VII, obviously one of the most famous console games out there. So what they are doing is they are remaking that game and all the Final Fantasy VII compilation stuff into a mobile game. That's quite unheard of, and it's a mix of all the art styles. It's chibi art style on the map, and then Final Fantasy VII remakes graphics on the battles. So it's a bit of a weird combination, but it's going to be really interesting to see how that turns out. So that's one to look out for. Then currently released in Japan, Full Metal Alchemist, really popular manga IP. That has been released in Japan, a mobile game version of it, to celebrate its anniversary. I think it's almost 20th, if I remember right. So really high quality, high production value game. And since that was launched late this year, it should be coming about a year later in the West, if kind of the usual patterns apply here. So that's one. And then, from the Western side as well, with a Chinese twist, Assassin's Creed. There's an open world version of that in the works. Open world mobile RPG taking place in 215 BCE China. It looked really high quality when we last saw content of it. So really interesting to see if that will make it to next year's releases. And then I suppose Wilhelm is more into this, but Warcraft Arclight Rumble, also really good looking game.
I think it's really interesting. It's kind of mixing this sort of Clash Royale mechanics, but actually having like PvE and other RPG stuff to it as well. So I'm personally really looking forward to that one.
Maybe one last one that comes to my mind, something that I've been playing in soft launch from Supercell, Class Mini. It's the last one standing of the recent Supercell soft launches. They had the Everdale and Class Quest, which got buried. So it's interesting to see if this one will end up standing. It's been 1 year now in soft launch. It's quite fun game, but interesting to see if it's good enough for Supercell.
Of course, we have, I think, lots of, let's for example think about shooters. Lots of new shooters coming possibly in 2023. Of course, everybody knows Call of Duty Warzone Mobile is coming. I think it's really interesting as it has this cross progression battle pass together with the PC version, and it's also interesting to see if sort of how it will do compared to the Call of Duty Mobile that is already in the markets. And of course, from other huge shooter IPs, we have Valorant Mobile possibly coming, bringing that totally different kind of more tactical and slow-paced gameplay compared to the sort of really quick and fast movement shooters that we have right now in the mobile. Rainbow Six Mobile is possibly coming, Battlefield Mobile. Then one really interesting is from developers of Garena Free Fire, we have the Garena Undawn, which is an open world zombie survival shooter. So those have been actually, we have seen some I think in the Asian market some successful open world zombie survival games, but like this is interesting to see how this will do in the Western markets, and now you're actually having this shooter gameplay to that as well. And then we have the Sausage Man, which is one of the really successful battle royale games in China. So we have that also coming to Western market. So that's gonna be interesting to see if more of this goofy casual vibe will work in Western shooter markets. And of course, we have the Avatar Reckoning, which I think Teemu knows a bit more about that one.
I just recently watched the first movie of the Blue Avatar characters, and it's really fun to like. It takes me to a whole new world separate from what I'm usually seeing. So I'm kind of curious to see this game, since it's kind of like a shooter game where they are wearing tactical vests. Like is the guns kind of the selling point of that IP? So interesting to see how that lands, especially after the new movie comes later this month. So,
but then of course, racing genre is finally getting some action as well. We have the Racing Master, really stunning looking racing game from NetEase. Maybe this like could be something that really revives the racing genre on the Western mobile. And of course, we have also the Kart Rider Drift, which is a sequel to the really successful Kart Rider games, especially super successful in China market, and some location based stuff as well. So the NBA All World coming from Niantic. Interesting to see if finally there could be some successful location based game other than Pokemon Go, but yeah, we'll see.
Cool. So that's quite a list, and I bet there's a whole bunch of other ones as well. We that will be either known or unknown at the moment. But those sort of games, I guess, the majority of those we sort of categorised as sort of mid-core type games. As we've discussed in sort of other podcasts, sort of 2022 was difficult in general for sort of casual games. Maybe there's sort of reasons for that. I mean, how do you see? Is that going to change in 2023?
That's really interesting question, because as you say, like majority of the new top 200 crossing games in this year were mid-core and not casual. There were not many casual games, and if there were new super successful casual games, they were mostly something totally kind of new. For example, just I think right now it hit the top 100 crossing, the Match 3D. The game just plays just like that. It's really kind of this unique match three game. Maybe there could be some new genres that could keep growing, like merge. That could be something that we could see growing. Of course, also something really interesting that has not really hit the top grossing charts, but really appearing a lot in the top download charts, and those more currently more ad monetized games. So these idle arcade games, which basically combine hyper casual with RPGs and these tycoon crafting mechanics. So I would say those are super unique, and I really like the gameplay in those games. But we could see hybrid genres like this, hybrid casual genres like this, moving more from the ad monetization towards the IAP monetization due to the problems in ad targeting. So we could see in 2023 maybe the most successful new casual games could be these sort of really these hybrid casual idle arcade games or something like that. And of course we have seen the current huge trends in casual. So these competition focused games, so these pure PvP games. I'm yet to see somebody try to make a similar game to, let's say, the Matchmasters, which has been a massive success. This is a pure PvP match 3. Could we see sort of games like that? Maybe. And of course, mini games have been massive in casual. So could we see sort of more mini games, focused games, maybe platforms for mini games or games like Township that it's half game is a tycoon crafting game, and half of the game is basically just playing different mini games and mini game events. But for example, for the renovation, I think that seems to be really saturated already, and it's I'm not really seeing that there could be more new renovation games being that successful. So maybe tapping on those other trends.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose definitely over the last year we spent a lot of time talking about sort of hybridization and all that sort of sort of games becoming sort of entire sort of platforms and all these sort of mini games with nothing to do with the main game coming in. I guess that's the sort of that trend sort of continues. I guess it's always hard to. Obviously, some great designers could come out with something from nothing that and make it a big success, but over time I think it becomes harder to have those sort of totally new sort of things because everything's sort of been done in some way. So you've got into a bit of detail, actually quite a bit of detail about shooters, and that's been sort of one of the sort of hot areas over the last year or so. How's that shooter market going? Is that just very competitive? Is there a certain number of people who want to play shooters and they're all the games are competing for the same sort of audience, or is that an audience that we still think is sort of growing in terms of the people who would play shooters?
Yeah, I think the successful of games like PUBG Mobile and COD Mobile really brought new players to mobile and make the whole shooter space bigger. But I think in terms of just the pure battle royale shooter games, I don't think those are extremely saturated and not really seeing too many new battle royale games really, coming to top crossing ranks. Maybe the Call of Duty Warzone could be one, of course, carried by massive already existing IP. But there's definitely, I would say, let's, for example, looking at the success on PC and success on mobile and other markets, we have seen lots of many other kind of shooters. So we still have in the Western markets, I would say, we still have space for these RPG, looter, PvE type of shooters, kind of which is the Garena Unknown. It's like that. So that could be successful just in terms of that there's actually space for that. Then hero shooters, so games like Overwatch and those. There has been in US market the game called T3 Arena. I think it hit just for a tiny bit of time in top 200 grossing. That could mean that if some big studio would make a hero space shooter, maybe even Overwatch Mobile, you never know, that could really work well. And then these sort of more these Counter-Strike style shooters and Valorant style shooters, there would be still be a base for those as well. And then lastly, the extraction shooter, so this Escape from Tarkov kind of games. We have actually seen recently this new Chinese games, which name I am not able to pronounce in any way, but I think it's in top 100 crossing in China markets, and it's basically this extraction type of shooter, which is totally different kind of gameplay compared to the other shooters. You enter the match, you loot, there's PvE mobs there's other players, and if you die, you basically lose your loot. So it gives this sort of roguelike vibe. So I would say for this kind of shooter, there would be definitely space in the Western market as well.
What tends to happen, particularly that last example, is you have games that are hits, but they're sort of they bring sort of a new atmosphere in, but they start with very niche audiences, and then over time people work out how to take what is a sort of a it's a shooter, but it sort of has this new sort of tension in it that I guess it's, as far as I understand it, it's sort of do you want to keep going into the level more and more to get more loot, but then that means you're more likely to get killed and lose it all, or do you sort of come out earlier? Do you get extracted earlier?
The monetization aspect in those games are really interesting as well. For example, in this Chinese game, the monetization is basically the only mobile game where you can actually do in-app purchases for items, then enter a match and completely lose the item. I don't think any other mobile games you're able to lose items that you have purchased, and it really works for them. They are monetizing super well in the China market, at least.
And I guess sort of underpinning a lot of the stuff we've been talking about so far is either external IP or leveraging existing sort of game IP. And obviously, again, in 2022, we've seen a lot of big games using sort of existing IP and being quite successful around that. So is that trend obviously it's going to continue? Is it going to be almost impossible to have to have a sort of starting from scratch mobile game with no IP attached to it, whether it's an external media or coming off an existing game franchise? Is that space just being squeezed?
Yeah. Looking at sort of especially this year and last 6 months or like 7 months, looking at the new top 200 crossing games, many of those, huge percent of those, especially the mid-core, were IP-based games. We went through the list of the sort of the hottest new games coming in 2023. Those were mostly, I think, almost every single one of those were either IP-based games or sequel to already existing really big mobile game. I think in mid-core it will be hard to do well without an IP. Maybe it's easier in casual and in casual casino, as for example, as well.
And I guess sort of part of that plays into, again, we discussed a lot last year, as the inability to sort of target in the same way, to try and find the people who would monetize your game. So IP just makes that much easier. I mean, obviously you're sort of paying a cost up front, or there's some, whether it's an internal or an external thingy, but that's giving you leverage to just widen your sort of immediate sort of audience, which just helps you, I guess, on the marketing side. That was the sort of top level stuff. We're going to dig in a little bit and into some sort of feature level trends. So I guess that every business wants to know about monetization. So we've got quite a few bits on monetization. So where are we going with Gacha? Surely there can't be any more complicated Gacha mechanics. Surely they've all been done by this stage.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see where it evolves, because, well, just was it a week or two ago, we got news from Australia that they are going to possibly make the loot boxes or gachas kind of adult-only content, so completely prohibited from minors. I think Belgium and Netherlands already have some sort of limitations and some bans there. So it's interesting to see where it evolves. We have Marvel Snap recently released. It has more kind of transparent monetization. They don't have gachas at all. So that is interesting to see how that game is able to succeed. If others will copy the similar monetization models. And just recently we've had a couple of games removing gacha element, which is sort of rare to see. We had Mario Kart Tour that took out their gachas, the monetized gachas. There's still randomized rewards as part of Battle Pass and daily rewards, but you can't kind of sink your money into the gachas. So now you can just there's daily rotating shop, and you can choose what you want to buy. Similarly, Brawl Stars, another even kind of better performing game currently. First, they removed their kind of gacha mechanic from the end game level up system, the gears. And then just recently they announced that they will be removing gachas or boxes completely, and they have this huge campaign, like, okay, do now is the last time to get these boxes, and then they will be gone. And they haven't yet announced what the replacement exactly is going to be, but it was some sort of progression system. So the more you play, the better characters you can unlock. So it's going to be interesting to see how that works out for them, and if this is a trend that will continue to the next year, because gachas are getting some hate from players as well as from governments. So interesting to see where gachas will evolve.
I think gachas will probably one of the most interesting feature trends in 2023. As Teemu already mentioned, that lots of gachas are getting removed and possibly going into the next year as well. But we have also seen the trend go other way already. Also, so we have seen, and I would see also that in some games, in some genres, and in some gacha types, is actually getting more popular in next year. So we have seen, actually talking about casual games, we have seen actually the special gacha mechanics coming now to casual games as well. For example, Coin Master has started quite often now using these event tied special box gachas. You know, box gacha is the gacha that you have that kind of small pool of items, and each time you pull something out of the gacha pool, it gets removed. So there's certain amount of pulls you only have to do to get the gachas, but then the price points get really big at the end, so it actually monetizes quite efficiently, I would say. Playrix's games have started using gachas as well, like Homescapes, for example. And then talking about the new gacha types, then each year there seems to be sort of one huge gacha trend. This year we saw those preview gachas appearing. I think next year, and already that we saw this year, are these engagement gachas that are coming more popular. So engagement gachas sort of tapping onto those same benefits that Battle Passes bring. So it works as an engagement feature, but also as a monetization feature. We have games like Pokemon Unite, Diablo Immortal, Hearthstone, all bringing these engagement gachas. For example, Hearthstone brought their new gacha. You have to purchase the key to the gacha, and then you have to go win an auto chess match in the Hearthstone, and then you get to open the gacha. So there's this engagement in the middle. So I would say these will probably become more popular as now more big games are starting to utilize these.
Going back to your initial point, sort of Teemu, it was sort of interesting. Yeah, you're right. Sort of Belgium brought in sort of law saying gachas were gambling, so you could do it, but you needed a gambling license. So basically, no gaming company wanted to deal with that, so they pulled it all out of Belgium. But that was a few years ago now, and I think at the time everyone sort of thought this is going to be like the big. Everyone's going to start pulling it out, and actually didn't happen. It's sort of restricted to Netherlands and Belgium, which was sort of small enough not to anyone really care about. I guess it's always the thing is if like a big market starts bringing them in. Bringing in sort of legislation, then sort of everyone has to make a change. But I guess sort of what we're seeing a little bit, Mario Kart probably wasn't actually monetizing very well for the players of Mario Kart. So in that case, it sort of makes sense for someone like Nintendo. They're not actually making much money, so they sort of they can sort of position themselves as we're sort of against gachas maybe. And I don't know, Supercell we'll go and see. But I guess the problem for most people is that's the sort of a key part of your monetization. That sort of mechanic, or that random mechanic, is just so powerful psychologically that it would be. I don't think legislation is going to come in to sort of ban them all, but you can kind of see the sort of tension in there. And maybe what you were saying, Wilhelm, having an engagement gacha actually sort of means you're sort of protecting yourself because people aren't just sort of randomly throwing money. You wouldn't, if you're not, you wouldn't just buy loads of keys if you weren't going to actually do the work and then play through it. So you're sort of, in a sense, maybe in that case you're getting the best of both worlds because you're getting the really committed players who really want it, and you're to a degree stopping people who just maybe don't have such good self-control and just buying things for the sake of it. So we'll see. I think you're right. It's a very interesting interaction between sort of game design and sort of social, sort of moral, ethical sort of thought and all this monetization as well. So we'll definitely want to keep an eye on. Maybe even more popular in our podcast series last year, battle passes. So surely again, what else can be done with battle passes? Have we not seen every iteration possible?
Yeah, I don't think like battle passes are so popular already, so I don't see them becoming that much popular in next year. But different iterations, similar that there has been different special gacha mechanics in gachas. I would say these new iterations of battle passes will become more popular. We've already seen a lot of, just recently, Lily's Garden, one of the top match 3 games. They added this new sort of dash mechanic to their battle pass plan. So there's actually in some of those battle pass rewards, you have this specific time you have to play to get to the reward, or you will lose it on the premium tiers. You have time to sort of just 15 minutes to get to the next level, and you actually will double your reward if you're able to progress that battle pass in the required amount of time. And in Call of Duty Mobile, they actually added that you can actually purchase the old battle passes that you have not yet completed. So that's really unique and really interesting way as well. Taking a bit, from the sort of making those items, of course, feel more or less rare. So some players might think that, okay, well, if they are going to be adding old battle passes, should I purchase the next battle pass plan if I can just, So it's hard to say if that's super good way implementation or not, but definitely a unique and interesting one.
It's almost like putting in, like we were just discussing with the gachas, almost you're sort of building what was a hard sort of monetization feature, and you're building engagement in there. So you're sort of encouraging people to go from the free battle pass to the pay battle pass, because then you have more optionality within that. So I guess that's going to be an underlying trend to all that sort of stuff. So avoiding App Store fees. Everyone wants to avoid App Store fees. That's going to be that could actually be quite a big thing this year, couldn't it? With all the ongoing still Epic sort of stuff and Apple and Google having to dismantle certain parts of the App Store. So what should developers be thinking about to get their audiences to avoid paying App Store fees?
Well, web stores, those are interesting. Those have been popping up ever since the battles in courts that Apple has been having. And, some bigger companies started going first, testing the waters a little bit, but then been increasing their presence in the web stores as well. So, for example, Supercell, they started with just Clash of Clans web store. You could buy the kind of battle pass there, clan passes there. Then they saw that it was good, I suppose, because they added Heyday, and with Heyday you can purchase farm pass as well as premium currency. And most recently they added Brawl Stars there, so you can buy premium currency to Brawl Stars. And it's all done through the Supercell ID, so you can also kind of donate what you buy in the web store to other players that are in your friends list in the Supercell ID. And it's cheaper for the player, so it's 10% cheaper to buy from the web store. And for the developer, if Apple takes 30% cut, I think it's a win-win situation, as long as the players actually find the web store. Other interesting ones, maybe State of Survival has recently added, Forex game has added that you can buy premium currency. And usually in the game you can only buy to maybe up to $100 or so. I think in their web store they had something for almost $900. So if you really want to invest in the game, I suppose web store is best for that. Though for them it's only 5% cheaper in the web store compared to the game. But it's not just the mid-core thing, maybe as a last example, Yahtzee with Buddies by Scopely. Their web store is really next level. They have first time you log into the web store, you get a gift to your game. And as the store has also like a loyalty system that is just web store exclusive. So the more you buy from the web store, you accumulate these loyalty points that you can use to exchange for additional items in the game. So they're really going hardcore into the web store thing.
Yeah, so I think it's really fascinating. I mean, when I've heard Supercell doing it, I was pretty surprised. Because presumably, I mean, I don't know if you know the answer to this. This is just developers just doing this. They're not sort of cutting a deal with Apple in order to do this. It just seems to be people just doing, well, we can do it. So I mean, this sort of stuff does seem to be, to some degree, the beginning of the end for App Store's 30%, because any committed player is going to, even if you're getting 5% off, why would you do it through the only 5% for someone spending thousands of dollars a month is going to be significant enough for them not to be doing it through the App Store, isn't it? But I guess that's the saving money versus the ease of use.
For the most committed players, definitely web stores are going to be a great deal, but most players probably just end up purchasing impulsively through the game. So
I guess sort of similar in terms of sort of the App Store monetization being taken down brick by brick. We've seen quite a lot around sort of subscriptions.
Yeah, I think this is really like similar subject to that, to those web stores, and like not avoiding but reducing those App Store fees. So I think these auto-renewing sub-plans will definitely gain popularity. Of course, games already have so at least what they like to call sub-plans in the game, like monthly cards. You make the in a purchase one price point, and then you get benefits for the whole month, but it's not a renewing. It doesn't go through the actual system, the App Stores or the Google Play's actual subscription system. But and those, like the subscription plans, almost 50% of games in the US actually use these monthly card systems. But out of those, only 17.5% right now in the top 200 across in US are actually utilizing these auto renewing real subscription plans. And the huge benefit of these auto-renewing subscription plans is that Google, it takes only 15% of cut on these plans. And for Apple, it's the same 30% for the first year, but years after that, it's only 15%. So there's massive benefits in sort of utilizing that auto-renewing subscription plan. So I would see that also gains a lot of popularity in the next year.
It's not rocket science to combine the last two things we spoke about. So subscription plans going through a web store is great for the developer and potentially good for the player as well if they're saving on the fees. And cosmetic monetization, what do you mean by that?
Moving from the sort of the monetization mechanics to actual the way sort of the things to actually monetize with in the game and what is actually monetized. So I would see sort of the movement a bit, focus a bit movement from the core gameplay and sort of the pay to win monetization, and I would see the cosmetic monetization actually gaining popularity more in the next year. So there's two types of this. So first, we have games that are adding cosmetic monetization on top of their existing core monetization, like let's say match trees adding monetized match trees that are monetized with boosters and retry continues and stuff like that, are on top of that adding some cosmetic items that they can monetize with. And also games that are already heavily monetizing with cosmetics, such as most of the shooters, for example. Those I see adding sort of more ways to monetize with those cosmetics, and also ways to actually boost the sort of value of those cosmetics inside game. I'm going to give you a couple of examples here. So GameRefinery, for example, is mostly cosmetic monetized game, but really recently they have been adding sort of this more value towards those cosmetics through this. For example, one of these things is they added this Trend Plus feature, which is an in-game collectibles album, which basically makes these cosmetic item sets and these bundles into actually in-game clothing brands. So you're like collecting these cool in-game brands, sort of tapping also to this sort of in real life fashion trend as well. And also they just added this new cosmetic item type. So I would definitely see these new cosmetic item types getting added more to these. So they added these customizable cosmetic items. So you purchase the sort of the skin for your character, and then you can then additionally collect and purchase different styles, like different colors and stuff like that, and you get also rewarded for completing those different kind of collections on top of that. So I would say that's definitely happening in sort of cosmetic focused monetized games. And also good example of match trees where core gameplay monetization focused game adding more cosmetic monetization is Lily's Garden. They have, on top of their existing core gameplay monetization, they have actually added these cosmetic character skins that you can purchase directly or through Palomäki plan. And also they just added these renovation element skins as well. So instead of, let's say, usually you can choose from those 3 different renovation elements when you are playing the core gameplay. Normally those are always free, but there's only few to choose from. Then you can get additional sort of unique ones through the Palomäki plan. So of course also boosting that Palomäki monetization as well through those. But I think those are 2 really interesting examples, and I see that kind of stuff gaining popularity next year for sure.
And I guess in general, I would say that there is throughout society a general trend of it was seen as very odd to buy digital items 5 years ago. You might do it as a sort of a funny quirk to buy a hat in a game, or there's a whole thing of buy Christmas hats or something for $1. Whereas actually now it's seen as that's not weird at all. That's actually for a certain, obviously tends to be for a younger sort of age group, that's seen as very normal. We spend a lot of time in games or online universities or whatever, and so why wouldn't you spend tens of dollars buying the things you like in those worlds? So I guess that's sort of playing into that as well. But and interesting you say about having sort of collecting fashion and having sort of building up sets of that, and then sort of completing the set, and then getting extra more rewards. So all these things are being built in, being tied in together to the overall sort of progression of the game and the in-game sort of experience.
All of these games are becoming more and more social, adding more social features, and becoming just more and more social experiences. That itself also boosts the effect, or sort of the strength of those cosmetic items. And if you're able to tap on that with monetization, that can be a really great way for success.
Cool. Okay, so that's monetization done. Next, we're going to look at event trends. So live ops events. Those are the things that drive people to stay in games and stay retained and come back and engage. So what do we think are the big trends there? We've spoken a lot about we've spoken already today about sort of mini games. More mini games. Every games have mini games. Where do mini games sit next year?
Mini games are of course very popular. Many companies try out the fake ads, and then they implement those most popular ones to their games. We have all seen those, and many games add them really nicely, and people enjoy it. I think it was X Hero that was doing pretty well with these mini game style content, first in their ads, and then in the game. People really got into the game that way. So I think that is going to continue. I don't see that going anywhere. But also like in the events, maybe something. We've seen a lot of these mobile games kind of reskinning the same events over and over again. So you have the same mechanics for Christmas, Halloween, Thanksgiving, whatever. But maybe recently we've seen more games try to be unique with their events. For example, to illustrate the point, maybe Cookie Run Kingdom, what they've done with their latest collaboration with the Korean boy band BTS, they brought in a whole new style of rhythm game gameplay infused with their normal core gameplay. So that is something that we hadn't seen in the game before. And now that they are celebrating Christmas, what they brought in is a cake decoration event, something that they haven't done before. It's completely unique. There are characters coming in. They tell you what kind of cake they want, and then you just decorate the cake according to the instructions to get the rewards. So that those kind of to avoid maybe players getting bored or finding the game too repetitive, I think more and more games will try to kind of mix things up and bring new kinds of events every now and then to spice up their calendar. So that's maybe one bigger trend, I would say.
I assume from having BTS and a cake decoration game that Cookie Run Kingdoms is skewing slightly more female, but this could be wrong. But obviously that's the point there. Is you're sort of engaging your core audience, so you need to know who your core audience is.
Yeah, and the core audience might be surprised what they like. I've been playing the game daily, and well, the cake decoration might be a little bit of miss for me, but I never knew I would be this invested into BTS. So Cookie Run Kingdom has surprised me.
Okay, alternative gameplay elements. What's going on there? What does it mean, even?
Kind of similar trend to these mini games, but sort of, I would not really categorize them just as mini games. I think it's basically bringing these alternative kind of gameplay from other genres to the game, usually not permanently, usually just through events. Some really good example is League of Legends Wild Rift. That's actually been bringing now in a couple of different these bigger events. They've had these light RPG mechanics where you actually collect these story event characters and you develop them, and there's this really light kind of RPG mechanics, making those events like feel totally different and totally more feel as they would have totally much more depth than just having really simple task events. I think really interesting one is also talking about those mini games is the having Homescapes just had this merge event. So I think they clearly saw that, okay, players really love merge games. So why don't we have a merge recurring event in the game as well? But yeah, I think, and on top of those trends, I think competition events in casual, they have been trending for a couple of years now. But I would say that only, that trend definitely only continuing in the next year as well. The Candy Crush games, they have been bringing lots of even direct PvP elements and stuff like that. And I think, I told earlier about the Matchmasters direct PvP game. I think we're gonna be seeing more casual games try these direct PvP elements, probably in events. Events are really great way to try out new mechanics and see what your players would like.
You mentioned IP sort of earlier on in the podcast, but I guess one thing about IP is it's very sort of flexible. So we have games based on IP, but then also we have these collaboration between IP, which is, I think, has been very popular in places like Japan for over a decade, and I guess we're seeing that more globally now. That IP is not seen as a sort of a fixed sort of here's a box where you have to sit. The IP has to sit within that box. You're very inflexible. IP is now everywhere.
IPs have been really trending heavily, like collaboration events and IP based things in the game have been really trending heavily. I think the brands themselves and also the game developers have noticed that it's just super beneficial for both, and for the games it's either a really great way to boost engagement, or a really great way to monetize with, or even both. We have seen games like GameRefinery, they have been bringing these permanent. So instead of just having collaboration event, they have been just bringing permanent characters, IP-based characters to their game. They have like almost 10 different IP-based characters in the game, like Justin Bieber. You have Cristiano Ronaldo. There was some really recently they just added really famous Thai actress there as well. And of course, the game is huge in Thailand, so I think that's quite clever stuff like that. And of course, just from the brand view, I think more and more big brands, they really want visibility in the games. Roblox is a really great example. I think the huge number of the biggest brands in the world right now already have their own worlds and their own games inside Roblox. So it's really, to them, I think it really feels like a no-brainer that they want to have this visibility inside games. Games are massive, and there's games like Roblox with so many players and stuff like that. And it's, of course, it's totally different, compared to, let's say, you are running an ad in a game, compared to having an actual world that the players can interact with, or that the players can see that, okay, hey, this person is playing as this super cool version of Justin Bieber, for example. Of course, that also boosts the Justin Bieber's brand as well.
Something that's sort of been around a little bit in 2022. We've not really seen it sort of have any eventuality or any sort of massive impact, I guess. So where do we think sort of blockchain and Web3 sits in mobile? I guess the most interesting sort of bit we're not quite sure about is Apple has sort of formally released some terms and conditions about how you can use NFTs in the App Store, which we didn't have before. So some people are very excited about that. Some people think Apple's doing it all wrong. We don't really know yet because we've not really seen any great example of that. But just to finish up sort of quickly, do you think that's going to be a significant thing? Is it just going to be one that we just don't really know how it's going to pan out?
2021, of course, it was the hottest trend ever to make a blockchain-based game and have blockchain mechanics in your game. 2022, of course, has been, in terms of new releases, really silent. But I think, especially probably the biggest blockchain game teams have been probably silently developing their games. So I think 2023 could be really interesting in terms of that. I think we could possibly see some big, at least big name games already getting released in 2023, and it's that's a really interesting to sort of wait and see. But I honestly think that, or personally, I really think that the first truly successful blockchain games, or games that utilize blockchain technology, will be these not these play to earn games, because, well, those can be really, as we have seen, those can be really hard to sustain. With the sort of right now the market situation being super bad and stuff like that. So I think it will be more towards move more towards, especially the successful ones, we use these play and own games where it's a gameplay first blockchain game. So you can play the game without ever knowing it has any blockchain technology. You don't need to interact with it if you don't want to. So I think games like that, and then it's just a normal game, but you can own your assets if you want to. And I think one good example I want to throw this for sure is High Rise. So it's a mobile first game, and which have added the NFT technology on top of that, and it's still, at least grossing wise, is doing extremely good. Still, it's in top 200 grossing. You can play the game without ever touching that blockchain stuff, but if you want to, you can actually own your own assets in the game and sell them, whatever. So High Rise is a really good example of a successful blockchain based or blockchain technology utilizing game.
It is interesting, some of the stuff we've been talking about on the monetization side. I think it's not a massive jump, particularly now Apple have put down some formal sort of rules about how they want to deal with digital assets. You can just see that potentially just being another layer of monetization for particularly engaged audience members, that maybe they can get some of these things for free, or maybe they can sort of work their way up and buy some of these NFTs now using sort of in-app purchase, and it just becomes another sort of layer. So you have the free layer, the paid layer, and the blockchain layer. We will see. So certainly, yes, there are publicly there's quite a lot of the big mobile publishers are sort of announced sort of strategy in this field. We're not really seeing much actuality of it yet, but we will see. Definitely be something to keep your eye out on in 2023. Amongst everything else, we've covered an awful lot of stuff today. Wow! So thanks to Wilhelm and Teemu. Thanks for coming on and kicking off 2023 in style. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And thanks to you for watching, listening to the podcast, however you are consuming it. Every episode we're delving into what's going on in the mobile game sector, which is, as you can see, is extremely vibrant still the biggest sector in gaming, still growing fast and still sort of underpinning all these different technologies and all these different sort of layers of how to make games and how to build mass audiences. And hope you come back every episode, and I hope you're learning as much, at least as I am, from all this expertise. See you next time. Bye.